So today we're going to talk about creating a composition function given two discrete functions, that is, given two functions that consist of just points. So what we're going to do, and what we're going to build this new function. We're going to call this new function h of x, and that's going to be this guy right here. Because when you do a composition of functions, you actually are creating a new function. And this notation is going to help us understand this problem. And we know that f circle g of x is the same as f of g of x. Okay, and we want to know what this h of x looks like. So we only have certain inputs to deal with. Let me think about this a minute. So we're going to look at these two functions, and we're going to find out which one exists, which one doesn't exist. They may both exist. The first thing I'm going to do is try to find the red h of x. So I'm going to try to find g of f of x. And the first thing I have to do is I have to look at the domain of f of x, i.e. the inputs of f of x. And what is the domain of f of x? The domain of f of x is 5, 9, -4, and 0 in no specific order. And I'm just looking at these guys right here. So those are the only x values that have an output for g. So these are going to have to be the domain of h, because I'm starting here with f of x. And f of x can only take these inputs. So I'm going to try to find the first point. So I'm going to try to find h of 5. H of 5 is going to be g of f of 5. And I'm going to go kind of slow here. Elena, what is f of 5? Do you know, dear?
No.
Okay, check this out. If I have an input, the domain of f, if I have an input of 5, the output is -2. So f of 5 is -2. So h of 5 is going to be g of f of 5, or g of -2. And now I'm looking at does g have an input of -2? So I'm going to go to the function g, and I say, oh, it does have an input of -2. And what is the output for g's input of -2? That's 6. So if you look, where did I start? I started with 5 and I ended with 6. So the first point on the red h of x then is going to be 5, 6. Input, output. Input, output. So now I'm going to find, there's possibly another one. I'm going to find h of, you continue with the correct color. And I'm going to find h of the second input for domain is 9. The domain of f, because I have to worry about the domain of f. And this is the domain of f. The domain of f is 5, 9, -4, 0. I wrote it down here. 5, 9, -4, 0. So that has to be the domain of g of f. And so what is h of 9 going to be? G of f of 9. Well, what is f of 9? Elena, tell me what f of 9 is. What's the output?
8.
It is 8. So this then is going to be G of 8. Saba, can you tell me the output when G has an input of 8?
I just joined because my internet, so.
Oh, it's all right. Okay, well, I will tell you. G of 8 is 10. So another point on G of F is going to be input 9, output 10. There's two other possible points on G of F. The other possible point is going to be H of negative 4, which is going to be G of F of negative 4. And F of negative 4, what is the output for an input of negative 4 in G? Oh, right here. If I have an input of negative 4 on F, I have an output of 3. So therefore, this is going to be G of 3. And now I need to see if G of 3, if there is an output for the input of 3 on G. Is there? And right here it is. Bam, 7. So here's my third point on the function G of f of x. Input negative 4, output 7. The last guy I'm going to try to find is, and it's knowing what you can try to find and what you can't try to find. If I'm doing G of f, I have to look at the domain of f of x. And so I have found f of 5, which is negative 2, f of 9, which is 8, f of negative 4, which is 3. So I have to try h of 0, which is going to be G of f of 0. What the heck is f of 0? What's the output associated with the input 0 on f? F of 0 is 4. So this guy right here, f of 0 is 4. And now I'm going to see, does G have an output associated with the input of 4? All right, here it is. Input, output, 4G. So G of 4 is negative 2. Now I have an input and output of this G of f of x, which is going to be 0. Keep the colors the same, dude. 0, negative 2. So those are your 4 points on G of f of x. Before I tell you why the other one doesn't exist, are there questions about this? Questions? Metronet is having a hard time today, I hear. I understand. Okay, let me do this. I'm going to clone this page. And I'm going to show you now why. I'm going to erase the work we did with G of f of x. We know that exists. G of x is equal to this. I'm going to erase that, and we're going to try to find f of g. Okay, so let me erase this. Let me zoom me out here. Okay, if I'm going to find this f of g, I have to look at the domain of g. And so I have to name the domain of g. And the domain of g is going to be 3, -2, 4, and 8. 3, -2, 4, and 8. So those are the only things that can go in of g. This is the domain of g of x. Well, if I want to look at this function, and I do, h of x that's equal to f of g of x, these x's are the only inputs that I have. So I'm going to try to find now h of 3. And h of 3 is going to be f of g of 3. Well, what's the output associated with the input of 3 on g? Well, if I have input 3 of g, the output is 7. So this is going to be f of 7. Now I look up and I see what that, there isn't an input. The domain of f, 7 isn't in the domain. So this f of 7 doesn't exist here. So there's not an output in this composite function for h of 3. I better try them all. What's h of -2? It's going to be f of g of -2. G of -2 is 6. So this is going to be f of 6. And I walk up there and I see, does f have an output for 6? Nope, because 6 is not in the domain of f. So this as well does not exist. Still have to try h of 4. F of g of 4. Is anybody else on? G of 4 is -2. This is f of -2. And I look up here and I see that nope, does not exist. And if you try h of 8, that's going to be f of g of 8. And g of h, what was g of h? G of 8 was 10. And you will see that f of 10 neither exists, does not exist either. So this guy here doesn't exist.